Hey there, in this video we will go over the notes on percent proportions as we did in class. As a reminder, percent means out of 100. That's what it means, out of 100. So 96% means 96 out of 100. A proportion is basically two ratios that are equal to each other. And one way you often see that is A over B equals C over D. As an example, I wrote 2/4 is equal to 5/10. So two ratios, two fractions that are equal to each other. And we know these two are equal for a couple of reasons. One is 2/4, if I simplify it, that's 1/2. And if I simplify 5/10, it's also 1/2. So 1/2 is equal to 1/2. Also, if I consider the cross products, 4 times 5 is 20, and 2 times 10 is 20. So there's two different ways to show that, yes, these are proportional. So I'm given a statement like this: 4 out of 5 is 80%. You know, there's different ways I can say this. I could say 80% is 4 out of 5. Or I could say 80% of 5 is 4. So the language can be shuffled around. But no matter what way we say it, there's three pieces here in all these statements. We have the percent. We have the whole, that's what the part is out of, so the whole. And we have the part. So 4 out of 5, 4 is the part, 5 is the whole in this case. Now another way we can also write this is we can change the 4 to 5 and we can write it as a fraction. That's another way to write the ratio. So 4 out of 5 is 80%. And a percent is simply out of 100, which we did. So 4 out of 5 is the same as 80 over 100. And I hope this makes sense, because as an equivalent fraction, if we multiply 5 by 20, we multiply 4 by 20, right, that equals 1, there, 20 over 20. Sure enough, we get the equivalent fraction. There is, but what I want to do for a moment is just notice what piece is each part of this proportion. Well, the 4 in this case is the part, and notice it's on top. And the whole 5 is on the bottom of the fraction. And the percent is on the other side. So here's our three pieces: the part, the whole, and the percent. And we're showing them here written in the proportion. And now comes the important thing to notice as far as the language goes. Let's first focus on the percent. Notice that the percent, I'll do it in pink, that we can write as 80%. We can also write it as 80 over 100. My part, I will write in orange. So in this case, the 4 is my percent, right? 4 is going to be my part in this example. And then lastly, I have my whole is 5. So I'm just pointing out the different pieces. We have these three pieces. Three pieces. In the problems that we're going to be working on, you'll be given these pieces. The clue is understanding the language. So with the whole, we have this word of that we're going to be focused on. With part, we want to focus on the word is. And that's going to help us put together our, these words here, is and of, and the percent are going to help us put the proportions together, and we get this little key to understanding everything. Is over of is equal to percent. We're going to write it as some value over 100. So this right here is our key, or tool we're going to use. And in the problems we're going to see that we're going to be given 3 of these pieces, and from that we'll be able to find the 4th. So let's practice that. So here's my first problem. What is 25% of 120? Well, I know these all start out. I have to set up my proportion. So I have a fraction each side. And if I look at this, I notice I'm given a percent. Percent, right? I'm given percent. Well, the percent I can write as some value over 100. So let me do that. In this case, 25%. 25% is 25 over 100. What else am I given? I notice I'm asked what is, and I'm told of 120. Well, my of I see as my bottom, and the word of gets connected to the whole, and the whole is what's on the bottom. So I'm going to put the 120 on the bottom. So notice I have 3 pieces. Now I need to find, I'm going to solve for the x. So let me color that in again. So my part was orange, right? So take it back. My whole was yellow. Just misspoke. Of 5, that's my whole. Of 120. So of 120, there's in the bottom. So I'll even color code that. So if I'm given the of, it's always going to go in the bottom. If I'm given the percent, I'm going to write it out of 100. And so now I solve for this. We'll finish solving this after we set up the others just to compare. So in this problem, 15 is what percent of 120? Well, I see, look, I see that I'm given the of again. So let me write out my proportion. It's going to have this form. And I'm given the of, right, of 120. And that's going to go on the bottom. It doesn't matter which side it goes along, as long as the of and the is go together. So there's my 120. In this case, I see the is. 15 is. 15 is. That is my part. And my part goes on top. It's going to go right here. So 15 of 120 is what percent? Notice they're asking me for the percent this time. I don't know what the percent is. Because they're asking me for it, I have to find it. So I'll call it x, you can call it n, but they're asking for what percent? I don't know. Let's look at this one here. We'll go back and solve it. Okay, I see that they give me a percent. I like doing the percents first because that takes care of 2 spots right away. So 20%, 20 out of 100. Now what am I left with? They're telling me 4 is, so the is, there's what the 4 is my part. And my part always goes on top. 4 is of what number? Oh, no, so they don't tell me. They're asking me. Well, out of what number? So that is where my x is going to go. So setting up the problem is the first step. Now, from this point, we solve them all the same way. We do the cross product, so I'll come back to my first one. So my cross product, I'm going to multiply the 100 times the x and get 100x. And that's going to be equal to 25 times 120. And now I have a problem. 100x equals 25 times 120. If I want to get the x by itself, I'm going to have to divide it by what's in front of the x, or 100. And if I do it to this side, I also have to do the same thing to this side. So on the left side of the equation, 100 divided by 100 is 1, and 1 times x is x. In this case, I can, on the other side, I see some zeros can cancel out because I've got 1 on top and bottom. And I'm left with 25 times 12, which is 300, over 10. And 300 divided by 10 is 30. So 30 is, that's what I was asking for, is 25% of 120. Yay! If we go over here, in this case I'm finding the percent. But my method's the same. I'm going to multiply this times this and set it equal to these two. So 120x is going to be equal to 15 times 100. I'm going to divide both sides by 120 because that's what is in front of the variable. If I divide this side, I have to divide that side by the same thing. 120 divided by 120 is 1, and 1 times x is x. On this here, for sake of time, I'm just going to plug this in. Clear that off. I have 15 times 100 divided by 120, and I get 12 and 5 tenths. 12 and 5 tenths. So that's 12 and 5 tenths. That goes right here, so it's out of 100. So 15 is 12.5% of 120. Right? It's the percentage. The answer here is a percentage because when I put the 12.5 back up here, I have 12.5 over 100, and anything out of 100 is a percent. 12.5%. One more. Cross product. X times 20 is 20x. 100 times 4 is 400. So again, I have to divide both sides. In this case, I'm going to divide by 20. See some zeros canceling off here. 20 divided by 20 is x. 40 divided by 2 is 20. There's my answer. So 4 is 20% of 20. And we can see this another way. Another rule to always remember when computing is if you can simplify first before computing, you'll always have smaller numbers to work with. It becomes easier. And if I do that, can't I simplify 20 over 100? Yes, I can. I can divide both of these by 20, can't I? And so if I was to go back and look at this problem one more time, I'd have 4 over x is going to be equal 20 divided by 20 is 1. 100 divided by 20 is 5. And if I do the cross part again, 1 times x is x. I'll have to write here. I'm running out of room. Is going to be equal to 4 times 5. 4 times 5 is 20. Same answer. So 4 is 20% of 20. Hope this helps. Use it wisely. But remember, the big clue, the thing to remember here is this little tool right here. Is over of equals n over 100, my percent. This is the key for unlocking all these problems, and they can be worded in many different ways. But you have to match up the numbers correctly in order to put it in the proportion to be able to solve. Happy solving!